Good evening, everyone. This video is going to be a trading review and support session for July the 20th, 2022. So this ended up kind of as a second update. Let's take a look at kind of where we were looking at as we were opening today. So this is today. I mean. This was yesterday, and it peaked out above the 50-day moving average. By comparison, it wasn't a very large range day, but it did continue, did not fall back, and so it's looking for a little bit of traction. It's not unusual for this is a pretty large range day, that one, and so it's not unusual for the range to decrease. So that's kind of what we were seeing. And if we take a look at the big picture chart of what we were looking at today, right? So, so it's kind of, this was the pretty big up move, and it had pulled back around to the pivot point, and then when we got past 7 o'clock, it was starting to go up. Excuse me, just a minute. Had to sneeze, but it took its sweet time in getting here. I have continued to be kind of over trading, and so that's going to be kind of the subject of today. And what I was kind of talking about some this morning is, and I've gone back and I've looked at some. As you can see, this is where the open is right here. Right, so there's the open, and it kind of did a down up. I'm going to ignore this bar for a moment because that's kind of within the first minute time frame. And so basically it did the big down move here. All right, we'll talk about entries in a moment, and then it did the up move. Right, so there's the down and the up. Right, so so basically what I was saying this morning is once the down up has happened, so obviously it's not trending at the moment, right? It's done a down up. So in that sense, if it's before 7 o'clock, it may be useful to just stop trading. So therefore, here's the end of the first minute, right? Let's just take a look at that for a second, and it's still under the 3-minute moving average, the 3-minute close, sorry, and it's kind of coming down and kind of coming through. Right, the fast zone, and the fast zone was pretty narrow. So really, I was kind of, certainly waiting all the way down here until it had broken the 5-minute moving average and the 3-minute moving average is pretty late. And I kind of said I'm pretty late into this trade as soon as I clicked on it and got into the trade. In reality, anywhere in here would have been better. And you can see the follow through that it would have had. So this first trade is a stop out, and it was really kind of completed the down move. Okay, so I knew I was late, and I kind of took it anyway. And then it started the up move, and then I didn't trade the up move because it looked like I did trade a little bit. I take that back. I took a little trade here, as you can see. Let me switch to yellow. Did take a trade here, right, as it's breaking back through VWAP, and it was kind of running away from the fast zone and VWAP, and I took I don't know if I think I probably only took 1 point or no, but it did spike up a little bit. All right, so therefore, right, so that is the completion of the up down, and from there we got to be pretty careful, right? So I took a breakout all right, this breakout above the 2x100 is just as bad of an entry as this breakout down here around the 5-minute moving average. So both are bad, both are extremes. I get kind of used to, I still haven't completely broken my entry habits from before. I'm getting closer. I'm working on something that I think will help. Um, but this is just as bad of a breakout. So don't take the breakouts. Basically, the message is don't take the breakouts. Wait for, if it has broken out, wait for a pullback to see if it continues. As you can see, this one broke out of the 5-minute moving average, and it pulled back, but it didn't continue. Right, more of a sign that it's actually going to go up. Here, right, from this breakout of the 2x200, right, you wait for the pullback. It does pull back here to the EMA, right? So that's better, right? So as you can see, if you had waited for the pullback and really got in, anywhere in here, right, that would have been an okay trade. But pushing it a little bit too high, right, and without it testing something and running away from something is not a great idea. So that is a lesson in patience that we have to have. I have to develop. And then after that, right, so down up has completed, right, and then I took a little trade here, right. It's actually inside the fast zone. Didn't love it, but I took it. A little bit late to that trade probably, but I got out for 1 point. Then it started going back the other way, and this is entirely too early. Yeah. I mean, it is kind of running away from the fast zone, but as I've kind of said, so here's the 1 test to break out. Here's the 2 test, right? So really, I mean, it is coming from a double top up in this area, and I'm going, I'm now starting to declare this entire time just a bad time to trade, right? And it's around the minute average. So this could have worked, 1, 2, this could have worked, and it would have worked if I got in a little bit earlier, but it had some other things going out. But it's just a bad time. So I'm declaring it a bad time, especially if the down up has happened. So from now on, and I'm a glutton for punishment. So 1, 2 stop outs there. Tried it again on the breakout, right? Again, it's just trying to break out of the fast zone, and so 3 stop outs trying to take breakouts, and so I finally kind of gave up on that and was really kicking myself, right? So we get into more of the push time frame, right? So I prefer post 655, right? It is already kind of breaking down. So I took a trade here, during the push time frame. Both of those trades were perfectly fine. And let me see if I took any more before. No, didn't take any more before 7 o'clock. Probably could have, but it's getting a little bit close. Already took 2 in that direction. Okay, so now we're post 7 o'clock, and we did get a push, right? So we did get a push. Doesn't mean, all right, so we got a push going down into 7 o'clock. It doesn't mean that it's going to continue to go down, right? And it does pull back up into the EMA, right, and comes back down. And again, I'm looking at looking at this fast flex a little bit, kind of a breakout there, but again, it's too far down. It's traveled too far away from the EMA, right? It's even going into the EMA zone. I thought it was going to be mad, so that was a stop out. So then it's looking like it's going to break out again, right? So again, my message is going to be don't take breakouts. Wait until we're really trending, right, with a nice directional aspect or a rolling over of fast flex. And I'm working on something else as well. We'll see how well it develops. So another stop out. So So the push time frame worked just fine, and a lot of times right after 7 o'clock, it doesn't work that well, right? Unless you get good entries. And if I take back a look at it, it really makes me upset because basically, Fast Flex was kind of flat, right? Now the pullbacks to the EMA were working, but you had to get in pretty early to be able to get those trades, right? So I'm working on speed as well. And then look, this is the nice curve of the Fast Flex we're talking about. But I think I had already put myself on timeout. I had just had enough of not being kind of in sync for the day. But look at Fast Flex moving up, and we're going to take got to be careful about counter trend trades. But it was kind of consistently going up in the 708 time frame. I don't remember if that was my last trade of the day or not. I mean, but here it kind of moves up back into the fast zone. I have to really be careful about that. But let's count the attempts to get back out of the fast zone, right? So pull back. So here's one into the 3-minute moving average. Here's two, and remember I'm saying, now I used to believe two, and now I think it's more three, right? So here's the three kind of breaking out of this area, right? And anything there, even though it's kind of going into the 2x200, if you want to wait a little bit, that's fine. But anywhere in here, right? Obviously, anything in that area would have worked just fine. So that could have been the again the 720. Remember, I think 7.8, sometimes 718, but 718 it was in the fast zone, right? So you got to wait a little bit longer. The 720-ish kind of time frame works pretty well, and up it went, and then it continues, right? So this is value low, or let's see, is that the close? I'm looking at the previous day, 42 something. This is yesterday's close and yesterday's high, right? So it's coming back in and breaking out here. So that would have been. I'm already looking, in real time. I'm already looking at history and kicking myself. If you have a lot of stop outs, then I'm just not necessarily encouraged to keep trading. But I mean, here we are, right in the middle part of the hour, and it continues to go up. So multiple trades there could have been aligned, right? So finally has enough going up, coming back to the close to the minute average here, and then it really kind of pushes up again, right? So if you're positive, right, and certainly I could have been positive if I hadn't been so stubborn in taking these breakout trades, then you can kind of wait, and again, what I'm kind of looking for, right? So the areas, let's start here. We're above the EMA, right? And it pulls back to the EMA, right? Does that maybe you even want to be a little bit conservative, because that's kind of like just starting to break out of the 3-minute close. Maybe you want to be even a little bit more conservative. It pulls back into the fast zone a little bit. Kind of hits the EMA again. EMA is stepping up, and here we're getting, we get the double expansions, right? That's a very good trade. Now here it might be here it is likely too far, right? Here's the EMA zone, right? You're already in there. Sometimes you're just going to get a real stiff market up and is making new highs. We don't have to chase that though, right? If we're already positive, we don't have to chase that, right? So let it rest. And here we're not getting any expansions. We're just getting this really slow kind of trickle up, right? It does pull back to R1 here and then kind of goes through. These are I'm a little bit more reluctant to trade, and we really didn't need to if we hadn't been chasing too much, right? So here's one hit back at the minute average. Here's another one. Here's another one. It's not breaking out yet, right? Here's another one, not breaking out. don't necessarily, and it's just kind of going sideways now, going sideways in the fast zone. So you just got to leave it alone and wait, right? And don't want to take the break out of the 2x20, right? Just yet, right? So don't trade in the fast zone. Ultimately, over here, look what it does. In the mid 8 o'clock at the 8:20 kind of time frame, right? The minute average has been coming down. The 2x20 has been coming up. So now it's very narrow, right? So now we get an expansion breaking out of a narrow. Look how narrow it's not on top of each other, but look how narrow the fast zone is, right? It's breaking, and the EMA is already stepping down. The EMA has been in the fast zone, and it steps down, and usually those things travel, right? So that would have been a good trade. So there's lots of trades available if I just can break my habit of pushing, and I used to get away with all my pushing because I defended and added to, and which is just not a it's not a great idea. I mean, sometimes I get frustrated that I'm not making money day after day after day, but I'm still tuning myself into making sure I'm waiting for the best trades, and I'm getting a little bit more insight, and just literally, I think, not trading. If you take a trade early, fine, right? If that stops out, you better wait, and then not trade unless you really are in a good trending environment between then and the push time. If the push time isn't trending, then leave it alone. Then wait until after 7, right, and catch a few trades there. So my focus, even though, and I even said this, I know this, right? I want to under trade for a while, but then if something goes bad and that first trade stopped out today, I want to get that money back. So I call it revenge trading, and revenge trading is not good, because you're literally kind of pushing yourself a little bit emotionally to get that loss back. And I mean, if you're a little bit out of sync, I mean, it's happened before. The only thing that does is add to your losses, right? Just adds to your losses, because if it stops out, you're a little out of sync with the market. You waited too late, and you need to take a little time out. All right, so that's my lessons learned for the day and what I'm looking at. So I'm going to try to control myself tomorrow, and not overtrade, especially in the first 30 minutes. 1, 2, 3 trades, and avoid the middle is kind of what I'm looking for in doing. Just got to do that. So even though it's very frustrating to have a losing day, still, even the last few losing days I've had, add them all up, it's still less than a really bad day, right? And if you mess up with your add twos, reverses, then add 2 in the reverse, and if that doesn't work, it's still better than a bad one of those days, right? So I'm trying to find a little bit encouragement of that, and until I get myself tuned in, I'm not trading very big either. Taking too many trades, but I'm not trading in like big contracts or anything like that. All right, so those are my lessons learned, and kicking myself in the butt a little bit, and I'm trying to apply a little bit more math as well. We'll see how that works out. If it works out fine, then clearly I'm going to show you what that might be. But it's early in that process. All right. Any questions on that? How are we going to find out that the pullback is not happening, but this is actual trending and we should not miss the trade? It's difficult. It's a little bit difficult. Let's go back to a trending time frame on when that might be. All right, so So for instance, right? So for instance, one way is to give a little bit of confidence that I have noticed is make sure you're relatively close to it running away from something, right? So I mean, even okay, so we got close to the minute average here, right? But at this point, fast flex is still coming down, and we're still under the EMA, right? So you got to just kind of got to wait. And then I would say here, even though it went here, even though it's just kind of breaking out of the EMA, right? You got an expansion down, and you should probably wait, right? Even though this would have worked just fine, right? Wait, let it go. If it's breaking out, let it go sideways a little bit, and as you can see, it kind of comes into the neutral territory a little bit under ultra, but still above the EMA, and we get double expansions. So this is the one that's going to move. All right, that's the one that's going to move. Now that one wasn't too hard. Now let's go back to one that's harder, and when should you get in to not miss the trade? That's the question, right? Let's kind of go through some. See if we can find out something a little bit hard. All right, so here's the fast zone, right? And it's coming into the time where it may be okay to trade. And but you don't want to take a trade. In my opinion, you still don't want to take a trade in the fast zone. Let me scroll this back a little bit more to make sure we understand all this fast zone. So it's been, there you go. So it's been in the fast zone for a while. And well, let's take a look at this. This is better, right? So it's coming back in, right? Just barely breaks the 3-minute moving average, so you gotta wait, right? It does pull back to the 5-minute moving average here, and if you took this breakout, ultimately it would have worked. I'm going to say that that's not a good idea, right? Because you got again, you've got the 3-minute moving average and the volume point of control there. You got the 2x200 here. It's really not going anywhere, right? And now you're even underneath. You're underneath the fast flex, right? So it pulls back again, deeper into the fast zone, right? So we're waiting, right? It's not breaking out. It's not necessarily setting up for a great short trade. Right, but then it comes back and it breaks out of the 3-minute moving average again, right? And so at this point, you've got a nice fast zone working, right? You got it, and you are coming from a double expansion from down here, right? Pretty close together, right? It's into some stuff, so I wouldn't necessarily take that entry. And then you're kind of watching for, is there any momentum here coming in, right? So when do you take it? And the answer isn't this, for me anyway. This answer isn't necessarily obvious, right? Because it still has to break the 2x200. It still has to break the open. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't, right? And so this one is much tougher. The only thing I would say that we have going for us is we're going to have to start recognizing time, right? And here's this 720-ish time frame. It really kind of started around here, right? That 718 time frame. So sometimes it starts earlier, a little earlier. But it was in the fast zone a little bit, so it took a little bit of time to gain some traction on that. So at some point, and you don't want to wait too long. So at some point, you need to pull the trigger. Let me go back to my chart a bit to see what, because I added a little bit more math to my chart today. It's very early to see what it was saying. I mean, I know probably what it was saying. Yeah. right. Actually I took a trade in here. 721. Did I mark that? I don't see any arrows in here. Let me clean the chart up. I did actually take a trade here, and my entry was 21.15. So as it was, as it looking like it was really, so I entered a long trade right about there. I guess I missed that marking that. So at some point, it's kind of running away from the 3-minute moving average, or excuse me, 3-minute close. Ultraflex was doing nicely in that. So this is where I made my decision, right? Consistent bars, kind of moving up. I finally made my decision there, and it went up. It's not without some risk, though, right? I mean, it's right at the open. A seller could have hit it, but it's also right in a time frame that in this 720 time frame, I wouldn't call it magical, but if the trend is working in there, then it has a tendency to do it. So sometimes, and maybe the partial answer to your question, Sean, is sometimes it's going to be looking pretty good, and we're going to take it if it's a good time, right? So 720. If I go back to, let's say, a couple of few of my stop outs today, right here, right, it was trying to shoot through the and it did a little bit, but it didn't go enough on this uptrend, right? This one worked, right? I was earlier. This one pushed it too much, right? And then it's really not very directional, just kind of coming up to yesterday's close. And here I was too early, right? I mean, I'm with the Ultraflex, but Fastflex is still coming down, and we just had a 3-minute down close. Not a great moment. Same thing here, right? And some of the difference is I'm now declaring, and it won't be the same thing every single day, right? I'm just kind of declaring from here to, even, let me move the chart over some. I'm kind of declaring, everything up until about there, at the 6:55. I like the last 5 minutes, and sometimes even the last 2 minutes, but this is already starting to break down. And so this area, and this is probably even goes further back than that, right? My consistency is not great, right? And look at where now, if it had been trending and running nicely away from the fast zone, that would be different, right? But the fast zone is pretty flat, right? Fast zone is very flat, and it's just kind of wiggling around back and forth, right? And the EMA was relatively flat, right, and didn't start trending again to the downside until it had really broken out of it all. It's a complicated picture to process it all in real time. It's easy in hindsight, right? That's the bewildering part about it. And so that's where patience has to kick in, and we have to wait for that trend to develop, right? So I wish I could, with just a signal that says this is it. That's very elusive because of all the game playing that goes with it. The only thing I'm working on right now is with a little bit better, let's say, faster math, is being able to catch when the market is rolling over rolling over or rolling up, right? And that's just a combination of all this junk. That's I call it junk. They're all extremely critical to have. The trend is kind of based around the flexes and if it's running away from something, right? The combination of the 3-minute close and or the EMA, and it's running in combination of running away from the fast zone in one way or another. If it's just right around the fast zone and the fast zone is doing nothing, keep your money in your pocket and just let it go. Again, we don't need that many positive trades, as long as we're avoiding the worst times, the worst setups, the worst breakouts to chase, and those sorts of things. If I just eliminated all the trading, even with that first stop out, eliminating all the trading, after the up down, would have been fine today, especially since I wouldn't have been mad at myself and I could have caught those trends. I wouldn't have been going back and looking at this, and I would have caught those trends in the 7 o'clock hour. So I think the best I can do is because we're competing with guys that have that are like 1 millisecond away from the exchange, right? We're not necessarily competing with amateurs. Our indicators are better than that. We're competing with the guys that have 1 millisecond access to the exchange and a lot of money, and they're playing their games, right? So I just have to get us aligned. I've got to get all the math aligned, and I'm close. I got to get all the math aligned to what they can kind of see. I think I've got one more thing to maybe add to this to kind of see what's going on. And again, it's sort of in the quest again for speed and maybe get some earlier, recognize a pretty good entry a little earlier, right? We're never going to be the guys who initiate the move, right? That needs to be people with big money. We just want to follow as close as we can with them and grab a point and a half, 2 points, something like that. Okay. All right. So thanks, Sean. Have a good night as well. I'll get this thing posted. I'm getting close, even though I'm frustrated. I'm getting closer and closer, and maybe what I'm working on now, and the fact that I'll have at least a week break, I'll come back a little bit refreshed and be ready to go. All right, have a good rest of your evening. I think I can do it. I just need. I'm close now. Need some more discipline. That's all I need. I just need some discipline and controlling my index finger, my trigger finger. All right, so have a great night, and we will see you in the morning or whenever you can get in. All right, have a good day.